like before, and even the old temple talks, it's sort of like driving and hitting the guardrails a lot. Like it's a little abrasive, it's like,
well, I feel a bit responsible for that because I think sometimes my ab lib, I'm pushing you a little bit
well,
to the bumpers, right? And then you're like, okay. And then she's like, nope.
In Temple Talk, we are entering a space that he holds. Yet within this space, there are other beings, most of whom are disembodied. They don't have a body in this lifetime. And they're able to hold different frequencies to make a bridge to our reality in a way that's more accessible. By treating it as his and knowing that's what we're doing, there's a fundamental trust that everything that we're sharing is the best they know, the best way they know to relate to people who are leading more consistent materialistic lives, and to just trust that so we don't evaluate it. As I'm invited into that, I'm really trusting. I'm just in this surrendered space where even when I think of saying a word quickly, I can tell I'm being told to slow down. So it's guiding. It's like an evolution of channeling, but it's a little more active. They're trying to teach me, and thus you, how to embody these frequencies. That's the goal. So I go into a surrendered space. There is a mentor, guide, teacher named Naya, who is most commonly with me if I slip. And Thoth is like hugging me. That's the experience.
We are back to another Blessed Temple Talk. This is one of the most favorite series that Wildflower Fire has. And we're excited today to bring on some of our OGs. We have Angie and Emiliano. Hey guys, how you doing? So today we are going to be working with the three of us, asking some questions from our community, Wildflower Fire. It is a holistic healing center that we have created from people from all over the world who work to heal our mind, body, and spirit. And we work with Daniel Fusen and Thoth and all the beings that are surrounding Thoth in Thoth's temple. So that is why we call it Temple Talk, and we welcome you to today's series of questions. What is my connection to Thoth and Thoth's temple? And also, does Naya stay with me?
You are intrinsically vibrational. It is possible to witness the vibrational balance that you are currently inhabiting, and to recognize it in relationship to the vibrations you carry from time in the past. When I witness you, I am able to recognize how the power of my witness changes you. Thus, I do not stare at you too long in too deep a way if it will unsettle your balance in an unproductive manner. To be present with this is to trust. Though you may mentally desire for the experience of my presence to be constant, please appreciate that it will be more effective to hold the guidance that is over time. Consider it like I offer you a floating buoy to hold. If I have given you something to hold for a time, the teaching that is most inherent in your life in this moment is within this. So to hold it is the most effective way to hold me for now. If I was to hug you, which is essentially how it can be experienced, it may well shift too much of your vibration too quickly. It would not feel good for long. You may enjoy the intensity, and yet you would be left empty and driftless. To be in the appreciation for my discernment of what is best for you is to recognize your own humility as a necessary function of the patience it takes to remember. For most of you, I will say this again, for most of you, you know us already. We have a relationship that transcends this lifetime. You may be confused by the mechanics of the computers and the internet connections. Don't be. These relationships function first through our spiritual connection. It is easy to redirect someone from watching one form of media or another. It is easy to invite you to connect with us through a form of media which will initially ignite the resonance that will allow you to go deeper within yourself. To allow yourself to shift this paradigm enough is to recognize that the mechanics of everything human beings create are first generated within spiritual and imaginative existence. This interrelationship allows you to recognize yourself before you know yourself in the material plane. To the extent you identify too heavily with your material characteristics, you will miss this dimension of your experience. Thus, I invite you to pay attention to how you feel as I tell you, you know us already.
Yes, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Sarah. Um, how do I enhance my trust that the guidance from the temple is for my highest good and to live my absolute best life?
The most detrimental belief pattern is a way of relating to us that begins in caution. Let me repeat in another way. If you start your understanding with a base level of worry about how these different dynamics will affect you, you will generate a mistake of some form from the beginning. Trust is where you start. There are many ways you can do this, but one of the simplest is to practice feeling. As you practice feeling, consider that I am drawing you towards a deeper vibration. Deeper is a very good way of explaining this. To recognize that the vibrations that you are accustomed to are essentially within a limited range of frequency. These limitations create what is normal to you. To trust me is to go beyond the standard frequency ranges that you have experienced as normal. When we do this, it is necessary for you to be both patient and to restrain spontaneous urges to take action before you appreciate what you are doing or how you are being affected. Thus, allow me to lead you deeper. If you immediately become concerned that you are missing something or you are feeling the wrong thing, you are actually overestimating your power. You overestimate your power to ruin this. Your most intrinsic capacity to ruin this is to continuously change your point of focus in a haphazard manner. To believe something that is inaccurate is not as big a mistake as you might think. If you stay with an intrinsic doubt, we will simply reorient to focus on why you are holding that doubt. Immediately, we are holding you. If you stay with an intrinsic doubt and develop it, we will simply reorient to ask you how to look into yourself to discern why you are developing your doubt. This work is effective. It will generate spiritual transformation. We can access your ability to evolve spiritually while working on many different themes. Thus, it is important that you recognize that you really cannot hide from us. You are overestimating the power of your focus or lack of it. When you stop focusing on us, we can still focus on you. And when we focus on you, as I have begun to explain, we do so in a way that has high degrees of discernment. We are focusing on you in a way that is tailored to you. We are focusing on the themes in your experience that resonate in a way that inhibits your ability to go deeper. In this inhibition, we care about why you are afraid. If you give us your trust to hold your fears with care, you will learn to feel our presence. If you feel that you are somehow unable to do this yet, simply focus on what you are feeling right now. We are within this feeling.
Is one method, yoga, breathwork, or meditation, a better method of attunement? And how can we make the attunement last longer or even become permanent?
I invite you to relax the way in which you may understand these phenomena. You have, I presume, heard the guidance as above, so below. It is helpful to appreciate your experience in context. And so I may seem to depart from your question, but we will return to it in a way that makes even more sense. You are completing a phase of karmic digestion. During this era, many frequencies that are intrinsically unwanted have dominated the experience of being alive in a body. In more ways than we can easily articulate, this has shaped both your experience and your capacity to even contemplate a range of experience outside of what you know. Inherent conflict emerges when the most dominant energies are unwanted. This inherent conflict has been generated on purpose. We have taken many unwanted frequencies and directed them at each other. When you are caught up in such a dynamic, you develop a mindset that compares in relation to artificial standards. You cannot measure whether something is perfect unless you have a standard to measure against. You can also not measure whether something is better unless you have a standard to measure against. And thus, I invite you into a simple relationship. What is better for you? When you ask this question in this way, you will quickly relate to an experience of the totality of your most vibrant vibrational experiences. This experience of experiencing is a way to step outside yourself as you traditionally experience yourself. And this offers the perspective to identify which frequencies are most dominant in any given moment. As you learn to identify with this witnessing of yourself, you are able to develop different tools and learn when they are most appropriate to use. You will find quite quickly that you can look out at other people who are exploring and recognize certain consistent patterns. When people have a deep imbalance of a particular form, some modality of healing care will perhaps directly balance their imbalance. Thus, if you are heavily imbalanced in one form, another form of medicine will be better for you for an extended period. But this is only true because you contained such an intrinsic imbalance to begin with. We can measure overall standards of health, whereupon no single direct imbalance is so dominant that you would ever think that addressing it on only one plane of experience is the best way. In short, you need each of these techniques. Not only do you need them, but you need to develop the experience over time of exploring how they respond to the imbalances you feel that are consistent. Thus, watch yourself. Develop an awareness of the flavor of tension that you awaken with. Develop intricate details to this experience and develop the experience of experiencing these tensions by not responding to them at all, by responding to them with breath work, by responding only with meditation. As you explore these consistent responses, you learn what is more effective under different circumstances. And there are consistencies that can be measured as objective. Thus, it is indeed healthier to guide yourself into a state of fluctuating balance, whereupon you can respond to your tensions in a variety of ways effectively. A simple measure of how others are working with these patterns is to recognize that if someone is presenting you with a competitive framework in which to articulate or understand healing modalities, it is likely that they have an extreme imbalance that is not necessarily applicable to everyone they communicate with. And to receive them in this awareness, preferably without accentuating conflict. There's more. This is a wide-ranging theme. I urge you to hold a simple analogy of color. We are entering a time that leaves the era of karmic conflict and embraces a rainbow of vibrational presence. When you, in the past, were attuned to one frequency of color, health was often measured in the purity of that color or the distance from a central attunement within this color. Now that you are moving into an era of rainbow alignment, we are more concerned about identifying lack and over presence. Thus, too much blue is a problem, whereas in the past, too much blue may have been ideal. This is a function of the shifting times. If you hold the lessons from the past that worked for people in the past without understanding that they were not timeless lessons, then you will remain confused. To appreciate that you are now learning to expand your ability to hold multiple frequencies, and the challenges expand concurrently. You must purify multiple vibrations and balance them within yourself. Thus, you will experience someone who lacked yellow all their life, who finds a teacher of yellow and will, for a time, consider yellow to be the most wonderful thing in the world. It is appropriate and even necessary to receive them with the grace and patience to recognize what they are going through. They will likely not want to hear it from you, but to appreciate that in time they will accentuate yellow and could even overdo it. To recognize people on their healing path in this way is to become the person who is able to witness multiple imbalances and the healing paths that bring multiple imbalances into both purity and balance. This is what we teach.
I think that's fascinating. And the aspect of past lifetimes also came up for me with that answer, in the fact that we are looking at balancing the rainbow within our lives as we have been in other cultures and other timelines. And those feel like they are culminating in this lifetime to also heal the rainbow within ourselves, as we also see the reflection of that healing with other people moving through their journey of healing the rainbow. So with that, let me ask, do the temple beings have an, sorry, this question isn't sitting. I feel like it was my question too, which is funny.
Perhaps you should go with your initial inspiration.
Is my gut instinct on the rainbow past lifetime connection that came up for me while you were talking, is that an accurate, is that close to accurate?
It is more. When learning about something that is beyond your current experience, it is both necessary and appropriate to use analogies which help you relate to this. To begin with a recognition that the analogy is limited is to use it as a lever, a way to move yourself into a deeper understanding with a pause to hold it. This launching point of sorts will allow you to let go of itself once you begin to revere the new perspective we are inviting you into. And with this, I offer an analogy. Imagine that you live only on the ground and do not look up. A multidimensional reality is adding this dimension of up and down to your experience. Consider that I exist in such a form beyond your ability to perceive. You have not been accustomed to looking up, so to speak, so you do not see me. And yet, if you contemplate that I am hovering above you, and that I have the ability to communicate with several of you at once with intentionality, you will begin to be patient with yourself as you accept our guidance. I allowed you to feel a connection that invited you towards the realization of the inherent necessity of past life awareness in deciphering this rainbow puzzle. To trust it is to trust the connection I offered you from above as a strand of energetic presence. As you trust this strand, you allow it to become a part of your consciousness. I encourage you to release the relationship you have with this as a right or wrong, which appeals to a consideration of scolding, which you inherited and brought with you to this conversation. It is not something I induce. I offered you a connection with the hope you would receive it, and you did. In this connection, we come to the true nature of the answer I share with you. In other lifetimes, you have centered upon other vibrations. There is no accident in the direct connection between many cultures. It is easy to relate yellow and red to different traditions in the world. As you allow yourself to simply imagine that you have existed centered within a red frequency for multiple lifetimes, you can imagine what it would be like to grow up in a frequency centered on blue, and then remember the lifetimes of experience that you were centered on red. Simply imagining this gives you access to a natural relationship to the challenges that are inherent in this evolution. You must be able to transcend this lifetime in order to embody the rainbow. If you continue to identify with the core frequency that you were born into in this life, you will inherently remain stuck based in false ideas about the other colors. You are a hue man who has most commonly lived in multiple frequencies. I say it in this way because I am not restraining the breadth of lessons that are necessary in order to encompass this. You can listen again and again. You can use this response to your question as a catalyst for conversation, and I encourage you to, because the many lessons you must embrace at the same time are akin to me hovering over you, learning to extend different frequencies to many of you at once. You must do this within yourself. You must learn to realize that your yellow is abrasive, that your red is subsumed in fear, that your blue is over-determined, that your purple is egoic. And you must respond to these many imbalances with some degree of consistency and often concurrently. This is an extreme challenge, and you are, by all means, invited to continue to ask me questions about it. Be at peace with this aspect. You must transcend your relationship to this lifetime in order to claim the frequencies you developed in other lifetimes. This is the most important purpose of transcending identification with this life, to access your relationship to the frequencies. The events are not as important. Your identity, your name, and any role you played is not as important. Thus, we diminish the emphasis on these themes. Imagine you have lived 90 lifetimes on this earth. If you come into contact with one lifetime in which you embodied a personality whose name was remembered, and then you begin to know yourself as that figure, you have heavily imbalanced your understanding of yourself, for you are far more than that figure. So it is appropriate for you to begin remembering with the humility not to overemphasize any one memory. As you access your past lifetimes with the intention to reclaim your relationship to the frequencies, and the knowledge that you are not shifting from blue to red, you are becoming blue, red, and then yellow, green, and more. As you hold this intention, success will be far more fluid.
How many beings are associated with the temple? And are those beings, do they associate themselves with a specific chakra?
A gazillion and more. I tease you purposefully, for you must relate to your experience of awareness in a way that breaks your experience of awareness. To overemphasize individuality in this regard brings you into contact with a challenge that you likely do not want to engage yet. I discourage you from pressing this concern, specifically because you are already living in an extreme imbalance. You accredit significance to humans and lack of significance to other beings. Thus, to translate this imbalance into an awareness of the temple would not function effectively. I invite you to consider something more inverted. There are less than 1,000,000 and more than 100,000 human beings who live in relationship to us as a primary source in this lifetime. That is enough.
Is Agartha another name for a mentee? And when vibrationally tuning ourselves, is one of the goals of Wildflower Fire to become that vibrational match with the mentee and the guides in the temple while maintaining balance on Gaia to transform this space as an example or blueprint for others to follow? Is this what Jesus did?
You will, in certain circumstances, likely resist the truth of this because it is so difficult to embrace from the perspective you are in. Thus, I am not answering it as directly as perhaps you would prefer. I am more giving you a path into answers which will eventually be far more satisfactory and peaceful for your heart. Consider that large groups of individuals arrived at the edge of the possibility of incarnating on Earth at the same time. They were sorted in respect towards specific frequencies to begin their journey within. Thus, some were sorted towards blue, red, yellow, and so on. In this, they were all given vibrational presence, a core, so to speak, that transcended the lifetimes within which they were to incarnate. Agartha represents one such core. This core is itself in a direct relationship to a mentee, which I encourage you to understand as the heart of the earth. However, with deep purpose, one civilization was given more attention and focus than others, specifically as the home key of the heart. To be the home key of the heart was a responsibility that would eventually unfold and draw the rainbow into consciousness. This could only be true with deep preparation. We wrote this story overviewed from a presence that knew it would lead to where you are now. To relate with Agartha as the core itself would be misleading. However, I do encourage you to follow your fascinations with such spaces, because you can go there. And going there and being surrounded by the presence of the intrinsic vibration that they hold allows you to more clearly relate with the frequency that they give you. As you more clearly relate to this frequency, you are more capable of channeling it within your life. More importantly, you gain a broader range of trust that the core of each of the frequencies, including, incidentally, Shambhala, allows you to visit several places with a recognition that they are and will continue to be resting spaces of deep inspiration that generate frequency that allows you to create life, much like an artist with access to multiple hues. Agartha is fascinating with deep purpose, as are many centers of ancient presence. The fascination is that they each are tending expertise that can help individual challenges. Thus, it will in the future be deeply relevant to encourage budding apprentices of the holistic arts you study to go on journeys into these spaces, because they are specifically medicinal for the patterns and paths that that individual has been on. I accentuate your relationship with Agartha because they are deeply relevant in healing extreme rages. That is enough.
Does one become a part of Thoth's temple? And did you choose your theme?
To be a part of this is to simply prioritize it over the course of time. I will invite you to recognize that your paths, referring to those who are present today, are relatively consistent in relationship to those who will come after you. It takes at minimum a year to recenter yourself with us. It will be unlikely that most are able to do it in this brief a time. 2 years more commonly, and more than this is perfectly natural. It is an overall function of priority. At the peak moments of your life, when you make the most fundamental choices, relate with us. Be present with the vibrations we share with you through the practices we teach, and allow your choices to extend from this awareness. It will eventually be extremely clear to you how you are making your choices, which is, in and of itself, a gift. It is crucial that you learn to become aware of the different influences that attempt to influence your significant choices. If you cannot name them, you are guided far too unconsciously. As you do name them, you can be clear and present with the influence that our mind brings to bear. By accessing our minds through the direct attunement of the key ring, you can simply ask yourself what choices keep you in attunement and alignment with us. When you do this consistently for 1 year, it becomes its own momentum. Thus, it becomes much less likely that another voice would step in and redirect you unaware of the consequences. By you becoming the witness of this tension and the conversation that results, you give yourself permission to be present with why you would resist our voice, and be curious. Be curious about the roots of the influence that draws you differently, and you will come to realize that perhaps it is appropriate for you to explore a different set of frequencies and alignment for a time. There's more. We are not equivalent to the entirety of the Gaian mind. I invite you to appreciate that an example within your body is most appropriate to bear. The various organs and networks of systems that make you who you are both independent and interrelated. We are such a system for the Gaian mind. We are not the totality of her presence, and yet we are in tune with her presence. And thus you can relate with us with an awareness that it is perfectly plausible that you have a harmonic and eventually empowering relationship with another system that you become a part of. Yes, you would depart from an intrinsic attunement with us, and yet it could be harmonic in a form that invites you to return when the time is right. That is enough.
Thank you. It brings up the possibility of Thoth's temple being a triage of sorts, and the fact that it could be a gateway to other Gaian support systems. And it just depends on what our contracts may be, perhaps.
I both encourage and discourage direct analogies. The most appropriate way to relate with these would be to hold several analogies and allow yourself to recognize what emerges from the contrasts and collaborations between them. A gateway, a heart, and a meet and greet center will get you into what we are.
I love that. Well, that concludes our temple talk.
I have something more to offer you.
Please.
There are many themes that shall be unfolding over the near-term future. I encourage you to heavily prioritize the consistency of the calling you face. You will be overwhelmed by the vibrational intensity of many themes that emerge over the near-term future. It is crucial that you not consistently abandon your intentions in the face of the next bright challenge. A bright challenge is nothing more than a challenge that brings the intensity of frequencies beyond what you are accustomed to. It is important that you not make new decisions every time this occurs, because you will be going through years of extending your limit to feel, experience, and even generate intense frequencies. Thus, in the past, it has been relevant to many people to allow the most extreme feeling to guide them. Now it will actively be most important that you develop the ability to restrain your response to the most extreme feelings. This is in direct relationship to the forces that are awakening. I want you to become accustomed to repeatedly being challenged by intensity. To be repeatedly challenged by intensity is to be stretched in multiple directions frequently. This is both painful and confusing if you attempt to generate coherence and a consistent understanding prematurely. Premature understandings stem from a fear of the changes you are going through. And again, I invite you to anticipate years of frequent changes in your relationship to the extreme and most bright frequencies that you feel. Thus, to maintain a center based in practice is to return to a relationship to these frequencies which develops over time. If you experience a new frequency and return to your practice and ask yourself to carefully scrutinize the difference in your feeling as you practice, You will learn to channel the new intensities through a form that builds upon the work you have already been doing. By all means, consider taking other paths. Yet if you do it too consistently, you will not generate anything that you can create an ongoing life and influence out of. Thus, it becomes an imperative that you watch carefully to recognize which forces are consistent enough to continuously invite you into new experience, which forces are consistent enough and respectful enough of your heart to introduce themselves to you in a manner that honors both you, what you have been creating, and the others you love. I say this with a great degree of concern. For those who learn to embody these frequencies will be both much more intense than many of the people you know, and much more fragile, simply by nature of your incredible capacity to change. We are, first and foremost, teaching you to embody a rainbow of experience. As you learn to embody this rainbow of experience, you will be given repeated opportunities to change the focus of your frequency day to day. This change is essential as you learn to balance the multiple frequencies that are part of your daily vibrational presence. This same skill makes you both attractive and vulnerable to many other forms of earthly experience. You must develop the constant ability to reference when you receive such attention. Why are they interested in you? How are they interested in you? What is their purpose? And when will you learn this if they are not upfront with their intentions, knowing you? I do not intend to generate fear. I intend to invite you into a coherent relationship with your life that allows you to navigate through the multiple awakening layers, that you may become the person who is capable of keeping your eyes open to the forces you are surrounded by. As you do this, you will know us. That is enough. You are not the children. I do not encourage you to follow a form of experiencing yourself that remains in a childlike state. The gift of experiencing yourself in a childlike manner is that you're capable of accentuating the vibrational joy, the reverence, and the curiosity that you have associated with being a child. And yet, for most of those who are capable of relating with the dialogue we are sharing, it is crucial. This is a word I use. It is crucial that you know yourself as key factors in the lives of many. You must aim for and embody a maturity to take responsibility for many of the choices and vibrational changes that occur around you. It is important not to step into a state of victimization or a childlike relationship to what is happening to you. This will be increasingly threatening to your daily mental experience unless you know yourself as the one who has been intending to awaken for a long time. As you relate to this aspect of yourself, you will claim the relationship to curious, vital, reverent joy, traits that you do perhaps associate with a child that are for you, yet they must come out of the experience of success, the success of intending to have incarnated many times over many generations, leading into the birth of the rainbow within yourself. This is an intrinsic experience of success. I ask you, I urge you to know this experience as a starting point for your reference for the many sensations and emotions that are awakening. It is the maturity to know yourself as the one who intended to reach this time that will bring you into the tears of joy that unlock and center your consciousness where it most needs to be, with us. And this is enough. Ooh, waves. That made so much sense. That made so much sense. I never even had that thought before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I could like see it all at once. Like, holy shit, I've been struggling to orient all these feelings and I've been accentuating this child thing. And it's like, if I start with this, like, yes, we did it.
Mm-hmm.
We get it all.
I don't even know how to sign off on that. I was like, I don't know if we have to. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah. It was just like, typically, I don't even, other than the last thing, I'm not really sure what just came through. But I do know that I typically feel like guardrails around a lot of these themes. And she was just like, it was like hopping the guardrail, constantly moving around. And when I was like, I had this little dialogue in the back of my mind, like, this isn't going to make sense. It's too all over the place. And she's just like, listen to it again. Like,